welcome back at Adobe Live. I'm your host Kladi, and I'm here today with you to sharpen your skill and learn new techniques for the Illustrator challenge. Welcome to this challenge dedicated to illustration. So today, during this challenge, we're going to be exploring some of the exciting illustration features with Illustrator, and we're pretty much ready to go. We have 30 minutes to create this illustration project. So let's jump right into my screen to let you know what the project is going to look like for today. So today we're going to be working with gradients and also grain effects in order to create this beautiful textured and to add depth to your illustrations. Of course, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for joining me here. Of course, the place is behance.net/live. So make sure to join the beautiful chat here together. And if you're watching for YouTube, come to us at Behance so you can literally participate throughout the stream. Welcome everybody. Of course, let me know where you're watching from. And before we move further, I want to remind everybody that these wonderful challenges, there are so many coming throughout the day. We're live every day. You know, the fun never stops at Adobe Live, but also you can get the starter file for this particular challenge. As I said, today we're going to be working with illustration. Just in that description. So make sure to head and scroll down to the description until you see the starter file. That's the one that we're going to be using today. It will be for this illustration challenge. We're also participating to this year this year 36 Days of Type. So I'm gonna be with you and accompany you every day in order to explore every different letter with different techniques and skills. So let's go ahead and let's start working with what we have here. Another big shout out at International in History, Women History Month, and I'm displaying a different artist in each different challenges. So today we have Erykah Badu, which is one of my favorite musicians. Let me know in the chat if you know Erykah Badu. And today we're gonna here she is. Today we're gonna use a reference, although it's mainly in music, with color. So today we're gonna apply this beautiful color palette in order to create our effect. So let's get started designing. The first thing that I will do is to grab my letter. You can of course use anything you want in terms of, you know, perhaps shapes or any illustration to want to apply this illustration effect. What I'm going to do is to hold the Option key if you're working with a Mac. That will be the Alt key if you work on Windows, and then click and drag in order to create a copy of this this object or this letter. And then before we transform the letter into a graphic element ready to be stylized with the wonderful effect features, I'm going to go ahead and under the character options inside the properties panel, I can search the different fonts available here. So you can simply go ahead and click and hover on the different fonts in order to see them displayed. I really like this active grotesque. Let's go ahead and see if there is something a little bit more bold. So I really love how this font looks in terms of being, you know, nice and curvy in shape, but it looks a little bit thin. I'm looking for a subject that has a little bit more of space so we can really showcase our beautiful textures. So once you click on the down pointing arrow here per each font, so let's say as me, you probably like this active grotesque or any other font. You like their characteristics, you like the width of the font, the height, or the space that is in between different elements inside the letter itself. Well, you can always look at different weight, so a different other element of the family, by clicking on this little down pointing arrow here, and by doing so you will be able to display and preview all the different weight. So by doing so I can just scroll down. I'm gonna get out of the zoom so we can all see the rest of the family, and I'm probably gonna select a bold. Usually bold or black are the thickest weight, and that looks pretty fantastic for what we're going to be doing today. Again, you can choose anything you want. That can just be a shape, a heart, or a flower. We just need to stylize any particular subject with this illustration technique. So in order to transform this text into an object, into a graphic object, I'm going to use the shortcut Shift Command O, and by doing so, if we click the Command Y or Control Y, we will see that we turn our font and our type, that in this case is a live type, as we can see the example on the left, into an object. And we can see here in outline mode that the preview shows the outline mode that is now so our character is now made by vector points, which will be scalable, so we can scale it as big and as small as you want, although it will not be editable anymore. So make sure always to drag a copy. That's why I dragged the copy in the beginning, so you can have more flexibility while creating, and you can go ahead and try as many fonts as you like. But let's go back in the normal view mode by pressing Control Y or Command Y, depending if you're working on a Mac or Windows. And by the way, let me know in chat how many Mac user or Windows user. I'm working on a Mac. I got my MacBook over here, but I also have a Windows in front of me, so I actually use both at the same time. But let's get going. So once we create our B, I'm gonna use the little eyedropper tool by pressing on the letter I inside your keyboard, or you can select it here from the toolbar. Let me show you how it looks like. And the eyedropper tool will allow you to copy the appearance of any other object. So in this case, I'm gonna go ahead and eyedrop and select the color. If for whatever reason your eyedropper doesn't pick up the color, you can use always the Shift key to make sure that it selects the color from the object that you are selecting. So here we go. We have our lovely bee here, and in order to create the grain effect and really start to give some depth to our design, I'm going to first of all give it a background. So I'm going to head to my layers, and here where it says background, I'm going to go ahead and press the letter M in order to click and drag and create a rectangle that we will use as a background. Again, with the letter I, I'm going to select any other color, and here it is. So that's our flat art, our flat illustration made by two color overlaid on a plane. So how do we start to make this illustration a little bit richer, adding details? Well, the first thing to do is perhaps work on different layers. That's the beauty of using layers, having more control on your design. So I'm going to go ahead here, and from the layers panel, I'm going to start by locking my background. So now I can go ahead and click and drag around the artboard, and our background is not going to go anywhere. By the way, quick shout out, these artboard are 1080 by 1080, which is the size of an Instagram post. So if you're also participating to the 36 day of type, once we export it, those are ready for your Instagram feed. But let's keep going. So what I'm going to do now is use the shortcut Command C, that's Control C on a Windows, to create a copy of our selection, which is our letter B, and then Control F or Command F to paste it in front. If we go ahead here under the graphics panel, you will see that we have two different Bs, and the one on top, to make sure that also we create the contrast, I'm going to select the eyedropper tool and use a different color. So I'm going to use this light orange in order to color my B. Here it is. Make sure to select it, and then when I double click and I enter the group, I enter what is called the isolation mode. So in order to enter it, all you have to do is to double click on the letter. Once we do so, I'm going to go ahead and head to my Windows panel to bring up the transparency panel. And since we're here, I'm also going to bring up another panel, which is the appearance panel. Mine is already here inside my stack of panels. If you cannot find it inside your workspace, as I mentioned before, you can find the appearance panel alongside all the other panels under the window menu. So click window and you will see the appearance there as well. So once we have these two little panels, I'm just gonna bring them just by my artboard so I know that they are ready to go. And the first thing that I'm going to do is to create a mask. Once I create a mask, I will be able to apply specific effects to a defined area of our graphic. Make sure to go ahead and select now the opacity mask little thumbnail. So we are literally moving and working within the opacity mask. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and again use the rectangle tool in order to create a rectangle. Now, it doesn't matter what rectangle, the color of the rectangle that we're going to be creating, because we're going to be applying a gradient. That's where gradient come into place when working with texture effect. It's super, super useful. I'm going to see you in a sec. I'm going to show you in a second how just simply by playing with gradient, you can actually adjust the texture as well. Very interesting. So once we created our rectangle, which is clipped inside our shape, press the letter V, and you can see you can move it around. And once we've done so, let's press the letter G, or let's click on the gradient tool in order to activate the gradient options. So if we jump back into the properties panel, here you'll be able to select the type of gradient that you would like to use. I'm going to go ahead and select a linear gradient and click on the three dots to display more options. And I really want to make sure that I'm using the black and white, or white to black gradient. So as you can see already, we have the gradient applied here on top of the two colors. But let's move a step further. You can access the texture effects either from the appearance panel by selecting the object that you would like to modify, and then from here select the effects in order to add a new effect. And from here we can select texture and then grain. Or another way in which you can access this effect is simply by heading to effect at the top menu, and again here same thing, texture and grain. Here it is. So in both ways you can access the same working space here that will allow you to access the grain texture effect. Here you can choose any sort of intensity and contrast that you prefer. Make sure that most importantly to use the stippled effect. So click on this little down pointing arrow to display the flyout menu that will display different kind of gradient. Now you can display whatever sort of gradient you want. I'm going for more noise effect, so the stippled is the one that I'm looking for. Also gives great contrast between the white and the black. And also the intensity will give you, of course, a different look depending if you drag the slider to the right, to the left. The right is going to be more intense, and the contrast also will help you to establish how bold and how sharp is the contrast between the white and the black within our gradient with our noise effect. So I'm going to set a level to 50 and 60 and 6. I try to keep quite the intensity slider to the middle, while the contrast quite always low. Again, that's completely up to you. Feel free to have a play and to experiment. And when done, click on OK. By the way, this effect can be edited at any time from the appearance panel. That's why I want to show you how to access from the appearance panel, so you have an idea of why. Then now if you want to edit it, we can just jump back into the appearance panel, and you will see the appearance panel lists all the different attributes and appearance attributes of the object that we have selected, in this case of our letter B. And the shape of, the grain is one of them. So you can double click on it at any time, and you will jump back into the grain workspace in order to make any edit, in order to change the effect. You can also press the letter G now to modify the gradient. You have the little gradient slider that displays the color that are applied to the gradient. So we have the black on the right and the white on the left. And here is the distribution of the black and white that also will change the different effect for our gradient by adding more or less depth to our design, depending on what you want to do here. Fantastic. So we could do the same for the background, but I just want to add a little spin to show you how to use this effect over and over again while working, but also by working fast and with an efficient workflow. Don't forget to always exit the mask mode. If you start to click and select other thing here, you won't be able to select anything at all, because we're still inside the mask. So we're still working within the mask. In order to go back to the normal mode and work as you were doing before, just simply click on the letter B, and we're now be able to select any other element inside our canvases, inside our pasteboard. So before we move forward, make sure to head to the layers panel. Remember, we did lock our background. Now we can swap and do the same. So we're going to go ahead and lock our graphic elements. So our letter B is not editable anymore. If you click on it and drag it around, no chance that is ever going to be edited, because it's preserved by locking the layer. And I'm going to unlock the background so we are ready now to modify it. So I'm going to we have like about 5 minutes here, maybe 10 minutes. Let's try to do this as fast as possible. So I'm gonna use here the knife tool to split this background in different shapes. I love the knife tool. Make sure to go ahead and check it out if you've not used it before. I use that all the time. If you do not know how to access any other tool that I mentioned, like the knife tool, which are not which they don't open up right away when you open your Illustrator workspace, make sure to click on the 3 options here to edit the toolbar at the bottom of the toolbar. And here you will see many different tools appearing. They're there for you to personalize your workspace. I'm looking for the knife tool. It almost looks like the eyedropper tool, but it's got a different edges to it. So let me see if I can actually zoom in. Here it is. And of course, if you hover on it, you will see the little knife label coming up. And here all you have to do is to click and drag it in order to drop it inside your toolbar, so you'll be able to access it all the time. So make sure that you select your background, and now simply go ahead and draw and create any sort of design that you want. And you can, by doing so, crop your shape in different shapes by drawing with a freehand on it. And the beauty is that these shapes are already independent. So as you can see, I can click and drag and move any of the shape that I've created. All I'm left to do now is to use the eyedropper tool to assign different colors to our lovely shapes. So perhaps here we have this lighter color, and then we can use this color again. You can use as many color as you want, by the way. That is absolutely up to you. And what we're left to do now is to create the same effect with the mask. But how to create this effect in a most efficient and fast way? So let's go ahead and let me show you how you can very quickly and easily do that. So the first thing that I'm going to do, remember, is to select and then create a copy. So I'm going to go ahead and press Command C and then Command F to create a copy in front. And I'll make sure that I add the color that is in contrast. So it's either a lighter color or a darker color. Again, I'm going to press Command C and Command F. And then again, select a different color over here. And I'm going to do the same with the V. So that's the main thing that I'm gonna create here. And I think we're gonna use another orange, and then here maybe we can add the light blue. Okay, fantastic. So once you're done here, you can go ahead and start to access the mask. So I'm going to choose any of these effects. It's absolutely up to you which one you want to add. But remember, make sure to click on create mask to access the mask, then select the mask thumbnail. And here all you're left to do is to use the M key to access the rectangle tool and create your rectangle. And then just simply press the letter G to apply the gradient. So don't forget also that you can edit your gradient from the properties panel. Here it is, my black and white gradient ready to be applied. And then since we just use a grain effect, you can now jump into the effect menu at the top and simply select grain, and you will see that right away this will be applied to your design, just like so. So the way that I was saying how to work quickly, now I'm going to go ahead and press on Command C to copy this element that we placed inside the mask. So all I'm left to do is to simply create a mask and then select on the mask thumbnail and then press Command V to create the same effect. So the same gradient over here inside the mask. Simply click and drag to change the mask selection. And if you don't believe me and see how we're just simply using the gradient, you can always select edit gradient, and here we can also perhaps use the gradient on the opposite side. So we already have the mask, and the mask, remember, is just a black and white mask. So let me actually use it on a different color because we were using it on the same color before. Remember, go back out of the mask and let's go ahead and create a new mask over here. So we're working on a different color now. You should see the magic happen much quickly. Select the mask. Don't forget that step because that makes all the difference, but simply press Command V and you will see that the black and white gradient will add the noise effect inside your clipped mask, no matter what the color you're using, because remember, the gradient is just a black and white gradient. So you can use it over and over again simply by creating a mask, entering the mask, the opacity mask inside by clicking on its thumbnail inside the transparency panel, and then from here again Command V, and you can just simply go ahead and paste this gradient anywhere you want to create this beautiful stippled effect. And we have just one to go. I can't believe it, we've done that in less than 10 minutes. Make sure to get and to stop editing the opacity mask by selecting the thumbnail. And again, let's do it one more time. I select the mask and press Command V to copy. And here we have another effect. And again, you can change the size of the rectangle. So it looks like in this case, we perhaps need it a little bit bigger. And then you can go ahead and also edit the gradient over here. We can maybe flip it on the other side to just create a little bit more contrast with it. And as I said, you can go back and change the gradient at any time. So perhaps if you want to change the gradient here for the letter B, you can also use a different gradient. Don't forget to use your layers as well. So we locked our B in order to not make it editable, but you can always go back, unlock it, and edit it at any time. And I'm going to show you something real quick here. So you can also change the type of gradient. So if we press the letter G to access the gradient and we move from a radial gradient into from a linear gradient into the radial gradient, you will actually see the difference right away. Again, don't forget to use and select the mask to make sure that we are working on the right element over here, and here it is. That's how you can very simply change the kind of gradient, and also you can change all the different attributes of the gradient itself. But now it's time to export. Again, you can do that with a letter, you can do that with any other graphic that you like. Make sure to unlock your layer before you export, and then use the shortcut Option Command B or Alt Command B. And before we export, I actually want to show you the two different options that I've created here. Let's see if I have a minute, because I've just noticed there's a little drop shadow here. Hopefully I can show you real quick. So if you desire to create a drop shadow, it's super easy. Just simply click on the letter that you wish to apply the drop shadow, and you will find that under Effect, Stylize, Drop Shadow. Done. Easy. You can select the opacity. Of course, the darker it is, the darker it will display. For a color, the normal color that is default is black. I always tend to use a darker color from the color that I'm using. So in this case, our B is red. So I would just use sort of like a dark red, because in nature, there are no like real black shadows. It's always like a darker color, or wherever the object that creates the shadow is, or wherever the shadow lands. So make sure to go ahead and click on OK. Of course, you can move the different positioning. And once you're ready to do so, we are ready to export our little Instagram post. So make sure to use the Option Command E, that will be Alt Control E if you're working on a Windows, in order to export for screen. You can also select your destination folder, and then from here you can set a prefix. So in this case is our letter B, and then select the format. JPEG is absolutely fine, and select Export Artboard. Make sure that Open Selection after export is open. I love that. It's so useful. It will open right away, showing you our creation ready to be shared. And of course, we have about 1 minute, and I want to remind everybody that you can share your work in order to get feedback, in order to learn and ask more questions and learn more together in our wonderful community that is Discord. So let me jump on Discord real quick. All you have to do is to jump inside the challenge feedback channel, and as I mentioned before, the beauty of having the folder open is that you can click and drag, and then I'm going to put the letter B here. So illustration challenge and the letter B. You can write your name, you can ask a question, you can write whatever you want, and simply press the return or enter key in order to post it. And here we have our lovely mentor. We have Andrew Ocrado, Jack Watson, Ryan, and so many other wonderful people that joined the community, ready to give you a feedback. So it looks like my internet is not loading the image. We just have the poop emoji from Discord. Hopefully we'll load it very soon, but you got the gist. Hopefully your connection is better than mine, and will also display the images. But do not forget to join our wonderful Discord community in order to get all the wonderful tips and feedback for your design. So now it's time to go and grab a glass of water, because unfortunately the time is already run out. I cannot believe how fast the time goes with these wonderful challenges. It's been a pleasure to be with you. I will catch you tomorrow with a new challenge, so stay tuned. But right now, get a glass of water and come back on Adobe Live. There is a ton of fun coming up for you. I will see you very soon. I hope you enjoyed this illustration challenge, and I will see you tomorrow, everybody. Bye.